real stories of werewolves, of Dogman from history, from your emails, illustrated and animated with the democratizing magic of machine learning AI. Welcome to Scary Stories.
Dogman at a gas station, as told to and read by Peter Bernard. Dear Scary Stories, this is something that happened to me last autumn. You can adapt it for your show if you like. I was driving home late at night. I don't remember the time, but it was after midnight. I was running a bit low on gas, so I decided to stop in this self-serve station on West Dogman Road. This is in Michigan, sort of northwest of Marshall and northeast of Kalamazoo. It was really quiet that night, and I hardly saw any traffic at all. After finishing my gas business, I was about to get back in the car, but something told me to go stretch my legs a bit and get a breath of fresh air. So I walked out toward the highway and yawned a bit. I was just looking around, enjoying the peace and quiet and solitude, when suddenly, down past the bank building, down to the left, I saw something come out onto the road. It looked like it had come down Avenue A or from that direction, and it just walked out onto the road and into the woods on the other side. Then it was gone. The whole thing might have taken 3 or 4 seconds. It wasn't rushing, but it was large, and it just naturally moved fast. I would say this thing was 7 or 8 feet tall, because it made everything around it look small. It was too far away for me to be certain, though. I didn't see it walk directly by anything that I could go back and measure, and I wasn't really sure exactly how far past the bank it was when I was viewing it. So it might have been smaller or larger than I thought. I just know that in that moment, I was certain I was seeing something abnormally large. It looked like a wolf, but all colored solid gray. I guess it was an anthropomorphic wolf, meaning it was slightly humanized in shape, but still more wolf than human. It looked like it could also walk on all fours, but I don't know, since I only saw it walk bipedally, and I only saw it take maybe 3 or 4 steps total before it was lost in the foliage out of my view. It did not look in either direction before walking out onto the highway, and it never looked in my direction. I was not just frightened by what I saw, I was completely unnerved in a severe way that I have never experienced any other time in my life. I found it hard to turn my will into action, I guess is one way to explain it. For instance, I wanted to get in my car and get out of there, but my body took a few seconds to realize that this was my intention. Then I turned around to walk back, but my legs grew rubbery and I nearly fell onto the pavement. Everything was spinning like I was tipsy, and it took a great deal of concentration just to get in and close the car door. Once that door was locked, though, my entire body went into shivers, and I felt like I was going to black out. My head hurt, and I was seeing spots in front of my eyes. I wanted to drive, but it was hard enough in that moment just to breathe. I felt so cold. It was like all my body heat was being tapped from me. I held onto the steering wheel and let the bad feelings wash over me until they subsided and I felt strong enough to drive. The entire way home was a struggle, and I never felt so emotional in all my life. Nevertheless, I kept driving until I was safely home. Then I literally ran inside my house and fell apart emotionally. Even at the time, my reaction seemed abnormally huge for something I saw maybe 2 blocks away from me. Yes, it was a giant predator, but it never even looked in my direction. So why did my body react so strongly to it? I'm not a hunter, and I've never done any time in the service. So maybe it was just that I'd never been confronted before with my own mortality? Or maybe I'm just a chicken and I need to grow up. But in any case, the most frightening thing I ever saw, without any doubt whatsoever, was the Michigan Dogman. The hideous face outside the window, as told to Peter Bernard. You know, when I was a boy, my parents would leave me off with my 2 uncles as often as they could. My uncles were fun guys, and they treated me like they treated anyone else. Even though I was a kid, they expected me to do my share of the work. They never treated me like a kid in any way, and that's why I loved being around them. But one time, their light-hearted, playful lifestyle led to me coming face to face with an actual, real-life Dogman. Of course, we didn't call them Dogman back then. I didn't anyway. I called it a werewolf, and in fact, that's what I thought it was. I still think that, and you'll see why if you pay attention. So, my uncles took me out to their cabin in the woods because they wanted to do some hunting. We hunted all day, then got back to the cabin just in time before nightfall hit. Now, we didn't have any electricity in that cabin, but we did have a fireplace. Both of my uncles had been drinking something strong-smelling all afternoon, and when we got back, they both passed out without even making me dinner. I kept beef jerky and candy bars in the place for such occasions so I wouldn't starve. Usually they would at least light the fire for me before going to bed, but not this night. Reasoning that I was old enough to figure out how to start the fire myself, I set about trying to do just that. The thing is, I couldn't actually get any of the wood to light on fire. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was damp, or maybe I just didn't know what I was doing. I tried, one at a time, to wake up my uncles, but neither of them was going to wake up until they had slept off their drink. It was like trying to raise the living dead, and I soon gave up. Then, there came a knocking on the door that almost gave me a heart attack. Who would be knocking in the middle of the night, in the middle of a forest? Now, whoever it was started shouting something. They banged more frantically and screamed like a lunatic. They sounded manic. Maybe they were having an episode. Maybe they were an escaped convict or mental patient. I had never been so frightened in all my life. I tried more fervently to shake either uncle awake, but had no success in either case. Now whoever it was seemed to be trying to open the door from the other side. I was glad that there was no fire or light coming from inside. I did my best to hide it in the shadows and watch. Soon, whoever it was moved over past the door and looked in the window. It was the most frightening face I had ever seen, and I let out a slight noise of shock. Even outside, the ugly man heard me and looked in my direction. He didn't seem to focus, though, so I held perfectly still, hoping that I was still hidden in the shadows. The man tapped on the window and leaned in closer. I could see the face a little better now, and I wasn't even sure I was looking at a human. I wasn't sure what that thing was out there. When I get to this part of the story, people usually ask me if it had a dog or a wolf's face, but no, it did not. It was just the ugliest face in the world, that's all I can remember. And it was trying to find me. I cried as quietly as I could, and I tried not to sniffle. I prayed for my uncles to wake up, and I prayed for the man thing to go away. And then he did. Go away, I mean. The man thing went away. After a while, I decided to head toward the front door and peer outside. I wanted to see what kind of tracks that thing made. I had only seen its head. I didn't know what its body looked like or if it wore clothes or anything. Even though I was pretty sure it was gone, I crept as quietly as I could until I was finally at the front window. I looked out, but I didn't see footprints or animal tracks of any kind at all out there. So I leaned over closer to look harder when the face was there inches from me on the other side of the window, and it was screaming something at me, something I couldn't understand. The next thing I knew, there was an explosion in front of me and on top of me, the loudest thing I had ever heard. I dropped down, and as I did so, I heard a loud, smacking kind of noise behind me. Turning around quickly, I saw something out of Egyptian mythology. It was a man, but it had a dog's head. No, it was a dog, but it stood like a man. It had a strange, confused expression on its face. Then it fell to the floor right next to me. It was dead. Almost immediately, it stopped looking like it did. It kind of melted into the form of a man. A dead or sleeping man on the floor. I had seen a werewolf execution, and I had seen the wolf turn back into a man. Turning back to the hideous face at the window, I saw he was trying to talk to me. He wasn't a monster at all, just an ugly old hunter. Same as my uncles, but much older. My ears were ringing so loudly that I couldn't hear what he was saying. Through a combination of him shouting and me reading his lips, I got that he was asking me a question.
Why didn't you open when I knocked? I was warning you that I saw a werewolf walk in your back door.
It's a classic rollover, play with the scary stories, got it. It's a classic rollover, put it in a stand-up to go. Available in white, black, navy, gray, or pink. Link is in the description.
A werewolf in Illinois, as told to and read by Peter Bernard. Dear Scary Stories, I saw a dogman or werewolf with my own eyes about a month ago. It happened on Milwaukee Avenue around 2 or 3 in the morning outside a hotel that my wife and I were staying at. We were heading north to Wisconsin, but we had just passed Chicago, and I think this all took place in Illinois. The map I'm looking at says Northbrook, Illinois, so that must be the name of this location. What happened was that we were traveling a great distance and miscalculated how long the trip would take. It became apparent we would need to crash for a few hours. I wanted to just pull off the road and take a nap, but my wife insisted we splurge for a hotel. Grudgingly, I agreed to stop and pay hundreds of dollars for a few hours of sleep. I couldn't get comfortable in the hotel bed. I was in such a bad mood about my wife overruling me. I would have been fine napping in the car. We probably would have reached our destination before noon and my wife could have slept then. I just couldn't calm myself down and I wasn't getting any sleep. Eventually, I got dressed and went out to walk around outside and try to make myself tired. I went to my car and pretended I needed to check something in it just to not look too crazy. Eventually, I found myself leaning on the car roof with both arms, looking at the stars and enjoying the night. Something in my peripheral vision caused me to look across the street, and I saw a figure emerging from the forest or woods over there into this clearing. It seemed to be a large, muscular dude, so I was a bit alarmed at first. He seemed to be walking with such determination that I found it a bit unnerving, and he was making swift progress, too. This guy walked right out onto the highway and just kept going. Nothing slowed him down. When he got out onto the road, though, I could see that this was no regular guy. He appeared to have the head of a dog or wolf, even though the body seemed to be a man or a chimpanzee or something like that. Either a primate or a guy in a gorilla suit, but the head was like a dog or a coyote. I don't remember the markings or color. I just remember ducking down behind my car and watching it the rest of the way through the windows of my car. I didn't want the thing to see me, and I don't think it did. So the monster crossed the highway and went into these woods right past the river over there. That was the last I saw it. I got back inside the hotel as quickly as I could, paranoid the entire way. I was convinced something was following me, and I kept looking over my shoulder, but nothing was there. The speed of the upright walking wolf had put the fear of God into me, and I was aware I was not on the top of the food chain any longer. Once I got inside, I ran to bed, but I still could not sleep. In the morning, I was an utter wreck. I explained the story to my wife, and she agreed to drive the rest of the way. There was just no way I was going to be able to do it because I had seen a werewolf in Illinois.
Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.